in Ukraine and Reliance Petroleum Company in India. The past 15 years, Lawrence has returned to marine surveying, where he still works in season for Crawford Marine Services. And Phil Dawson was born post-World War II of Anglo-German ancestry. He first became interested in ships during his early childhood in the city of Bahia, Brazil, through his father's work there as an exporter and as a passenger on several long ocean voyages with his parents and siblings. Moving first to England, then to Canada, he completed his schooling in Winnipeg, studying computer services and science at the University of Manitoba. While working with large mainframe computer systems in Canada and Europe, he also continued to follow developments in merchant ships and shipping. He started writing about these interests on a part-time basis. Leaving the computer field altogether shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War, Phil opted to pursue his lifelong love of architecture and design. He embarked on an entirely new photographic and literary career, specializing in design, operation, and supporting the infrastructural aspects of worldwide sea and air transport. On the strength of his success in these ventures, he later became an associate member of the Royal Institution of Naval Architects in London. Phil Dawson has written extensively for various international shipping, aviation, and architectural publications. He has also written and co-authored a number of significant books on ships and ship design. The first of these books, British Superliners of the 60s, presented an in-depth design study of Britain's significantly modern Oriana, Canberra, and the QEW. I beg your pardon, the QE2. He later wrote the commemorative book, Canberra in the Wake of Legend, on the end of her service career, and co-authored QE2, Britain's Greatest Liner, with Bruce Peter and Ian Johnstone at the time of the decommissioning. Wow, an amazing, and I know I've read that before the last time you spoke, but it's totally impressive for both of you. So please give our guest speakers a warm Shellback welcome. Thanks.
Sounds okay?
No, my present.
So I guess some of you may have seen the last talk we gave about the history of the P&O Line. This is a kind of follow on.
The middle one, okay.
And when this is really a perfect picture to start. Yeah, because this is me about 10 years old.
And me. And me.
My father had sailed with P&O before the war, during the war. And so I was brainwashed from about 10 years old. That's exactly what I was going to do. So when I first joined P&O, thinking I was going to be on a passenger ship and do cruising and world trips, P&O wouldn't allow that. You had to earn your allowance. So you could be on one of these freighters for 18 months. And we took people from, we had 12 passengers on this ship, and a lot of cargo going out to the Far East, Singapore, Korea, and Hong Kong, and up to Japan. And it was 9,000 ton ship, single screw with triple turbines. And my cabin would have been somewhere around there. So, next one. This is a picture of the boiler room of that ship. So it's pretty cramped, and it was hell of a hot. But it was a good experience to learn all this for going to the next stage. Okay. One of that picture was taken from that freighter when we were going down the inland sea in Japan, and that is Mount Fuji. And we used to take out mail and machinery to Singapore because it was an army base. And this picture is taken probably in, I think it was, by the looks of it, it's port side. Before we went into the Suez Canal, there all these boats would come up try and sell this stuff. This one is a picture again. I think this is Colombo. This is all the mail we had carried out in the Far East and just far north. And we took it away in these trucks and things. So we would then load up with the rubber coming back to UK. We also carried palm oil. We've got a palm oil, so that's how we got it back. And a lot of Christmas decorations. You wouldn't believe them under Christmas decoration. We could fill a whole. So after 18 months on that ship, I was promoted to this one. This is the Acadia. And this shot is taken in Glacier Bay, I think, because of the mountains. And I was going to the fourth engineer here, and my cabin would have been down. This was a 29,000 ton ship. I think it was about 30,000 horsepower, twin screw turbines, and three large superheated steam boilers. A picture taken on the wheelhouse of the Acadia. Of course, we could go anywhere on the ship as engineers and officers. We could do anything we want. So took this. This is obviously going full speed ahead somewhere. I'm not sure where it was, but it looks very, very calm. There's no one up there at the moment. So I guess it was an autopilot. And when you see the captain, there's not even an officer. Just the coxswain. Okay, this is the picture of the engine room of the Acadia. We had twin steam turbines. I said it was 30,000 shaft horsepower coming out the back. Twin screw vessel.
What year was this?
Right here, not specialized. Yeah. Picture of me at that time in the boiler room with the Acadia. I wouldn't have a clue what any of these gauges are. Because they don't have these type of gauges, it's all digital. So this is the old technology. Again, another picture taken from the boiler room. And I guess we're just on the routine operations. I took this picture from the bridge of the Acadia. We're crossing from Miami to Lisbon. And this was one heck of a trip. As you can see from those seas, but it was 4 days of this heavy seas. And what people don't know about passenger ships, when you're on heavy seas, you don't put stabilizers out. You bring the stabilizers in because the chances of them getting broken off. So stabilizers are only used on swells of the sea. Again, when I'm still on the Acadia here, coming into Sydney, Australia. This is just the Sydney Opera House is just being built. And we carried about 1,500 passengers on the ship. It was a two-class ship at that time. So first class and tourists. But it was a great ship to work on, and it was very well known. Another picture taken at Circular Quay in Sydney, Australia. You can see through the bridge. This is totally different from it is now. You'll see a picture later on what it looks like now. While we were here, I think the next one is. That's obviously a picture taken around November, December, because we used to go out and do Christmas cruises from Australia. From Sydney up to South Pacific to New Zealand, Hawaii, Fiji. And this is a send off from Sydney with a whole bunch of people. We had 700 people on this trip. But look at all the people sending them off. And this happened every time we left the dock. There usually be a band playing as well. And because of the amount of stress on the engines and machinery, we had to dry dock the Acadia once every 4 or 5 months. And here's me checking the port propeller. And we must have been doing some repairs to that. So I was just doing some inspection of that. And then you can see the size of the rudder there. As I said, we did the Christmas South Sea cruises. This is a picture taken in one of the islands. It's a place called Pago. No one's ever heard of it, but it's a small island. It's just like this, palm trees and very interesting place. Again, I didn't take this picture, of course, but we're going to do this Arcadia going into the Suez Canal. But that's a very good shot. Now, after Acadia, I transferred to this ship as this is their sofa. This is the Orient lecture. You mentioned in the last lecture that P&O had amalgamated with the Orient lecture. And this is the sofa. So I was promoted to this ship. I was a day work engineer, so I didn't keep any watches. Same sort of power. This was 28,000 ton, a little bit smaller than the Acadia. But the same set of twin screws and twin steam turbines. And again, it was still a two-class system we had then, first class and tourist class. This looks like we're pretty well full with people. So I surmised that we're taking all these people out from the UK. This looks like a world trip carrying passengers from UK to Australia. Again, this is short. I think this is taken in Auckland, New Zealand. One of the things we did, P&O did in the late 60s, they offered people a £10 fare to go to Australia, but they had to stay 2 years. So on this ship, we took many people over. And some stayed and some came back. I guess some people recognize the Panama Canal. There's many people being through there. Okay, this is only a sofa again going through the Panama Canal. And they still use these tractors called mules, fully through. And the same ship coming out of the canal. I guess these are off-duty staff sunning themselves on the upper decks. So, this is the same ship where we're heading down the South Sea and the Southern Ocean towards Fremantle. So I just want to put that in to show days and days of this. But it's pretty calm sea where the weather looks like it's there over there. I shot of Cape Town, coming towards Cape Town with the Table Mountain on top. My uncle, aunt, and cousin lived there, so I was lucky enough to get 4 days off the ship, and went with them up the coast, and then rejoined the ship before we left. So now, why went Cape Town? This is the cable car coming up to Table Mountain. It's the highest cable car I've ever been on. Because as you can see from the shot, it's unbelievable. And it's scared to be Jesus. up and going down, if that's the only way you can get out. During the Christmas cruises and other trips, we always had staff parties. So this is a party at someone's cabin. I think that's a deck officer. This is obviously a hostess and one of the engineer officers there. So people in their cabin would decorate their cabin with all these flags. That's a shot when I was just promoted to the service deck engineer. And when we left Cape Town, we went straight over to Rio de Janeiro, which was first for P&O in those days. And this is just a picture of the statue of yeah, what's the name of it?
It's Christ the King.
Yeah, Christ the King.
Sorry.
Sorry. That's a closest shot. Again, this is another picture of just again, you could drive up there or you could get a cable car. But once you got to the top, you still have to climb all these stairs. But it's a great view of Rio de Janeiro there. Yeah, and it was festival time. Carnival time, so we were lucky enough to see some of that. Now, after I was on the Asurba, I was moved on to the Canberra because I'd been ashore for some exams to be a second engineer. So I joined this one as a senior third engineer. And this is a total different ship, and Phil's going to talk about the concept. By the way, you can see the Sydney Opera House is completed by from an engineering point of view, I mentioned before that we were always accommodated down well below the top decks, but on the Canberra, we were accommodated up here. And we had an elevator right down to the engine room. Very nice accommodation, I think. My cabin was there, so I could look straight out onto the valves. This was a turbo electric ship. So again, twin steam turbines, but it's driving electric motors. So Phil will talk about a bit about the concept here.
We tried. All right, Canberra, we spoke about it the last time that Lawrence and I did this, and I said then that she was a very progressively designed modern ship, where the machinery was located after, but the funnels and all the machinery was from about there, back toward the stern, so that the center part, the most attractive part of the ship, could be used for passenger accommodation and passenger amenities. They called her the ship that shaped the future, as I'd said before, but the problem was in 1958, when they started planning the ship in the late 50s, I don't think anybody knew what the future was, because in 1958, there was an equal number of passengers who crossed the Atlantic by sea as did by air. And from 1958 onwards, the figures for the airlines went up and the figures for crossings by sea went down. However, there were still things like the 10-pound passengers to Australia. There were still people who preferred to travel by sea. So Canberra, I think, had a lot to do with shaping the future, really did shape the future, because it was her future. And she made the transition from full-time line service to Australia, largely carrying immigrants, into full-time cruising, and did so as probably one of the most successful cruise ships ever. I mean, considering too the ships that are now built exclusively for cruising. And we got another view. Yeah, anyway, yeah. Okay, and again, Canberra was as Lawrence said, she was a turbo electric machine, very, very progressive for her time, although this probably looks quite ancient, because now in the engine control center, it's all laptop computers. This was the main control console for Canberra's very, very powerful machinery. She was capable of a sustained speed of about 28 knots, which was used in 3 segments of the journey to Australia.
So it's a sort of name like that.
Yeah, that's Lawrence in his cabin and high up in the upper decks of Canberra. And next. And again, this amazing console in the background. I mean, that thing is just incredible. That was all hand built and hand wired. I mean, as you say, now you'd have something like that controlling the ship.
Bill mentioned this about.
Oh, yes, in the background, this is one of the 2 big, I think they were 48-pole piston synchronous motors that turned Canberra's propellers and propelled her along the maximum of 28 knots. An amazing, a very, very impressive machinery installation for the time. And I think even by moment, there again, you see a better view of that motor and of this incredible console. At the time, I was building hi-fi equipment. I always thought I'd like to build something like that as a sound system. You know, it'd be amazing. But again, that's all laptop computers now.
What you could mention about this is the controls probably what coming in work and.
Yeah, these the telegraph communicates from the bridge as to whether the ship is to be brought to full speed ahead. This is the telegraph repeater here. So they move the handle on the bridge, it moves this indicator here, and then whatever they're doing to speed up the engines or to slow the engine down are done with these incredible, great big handles here. It's sort of like a marine adaptation, really, of the center console in an airliner. It's quite an interesting feat of engineering in its own right. I mean, for those of us that appreciate that sort of thing. The propeller shafting. A very, very powerful ship and twin screw, since she was quite remarkable as being a twin screw ship capable of performance very similar to that of a North Atlantic liner, where of course speed is crucial. And oh yes, here we see Canberra in Hawaii, probably on one of she's on one of the earlier voyages, which doesn't have so many of the launches in her life birthday, but were eventually put in there for cruising. So Canberra, she did some voyages that I think did go all the way around the world, so eastwards about out to Australia and then back through the Panama Canal and back across the Atlantic to Europe. Suez Canal, that was always a very interesting aspect of P&O voyages to the Orient, the passage of the canal. Canberra was not very well known ever in North America because mostly she went eastwards about out from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, occasionally across to the West Coast, and then back to the UK by the route she'd come. Oh yes.
When we got to be senior engineers on the ships, we had this passenger table. So this is a shot taken of, it's on the camera. One of the restaurants there. And we were expected, of course, to go to the dances and all the things that the passengers did. We had to do Captain's cocktail party, which you'll see a picture of in a minute. I think it's the next shot.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a shot on the American coast. It's all these people were Americans. So this is a captain's cocktail party. I'm just doing my duty here. Talking about we're going to be. And Phil, you can talk about it.
So he says. So here we're looking at the top decks of Canberra, and this really shows how they opened up the center of the ship for the enjoyment of the passengers, because the twin uptakes, the funnels, the machinery is directly below those funnels all the way up. So you have all this huge extents of open deck topsides. This swimming pool is remarkable because it goes down in stages, and underneath this railing and this rubbish bin and everything, there was a lounge, a ballroom that opened out onto that. It had a glass wall that lowered down into the deck. So the dance floor actually continued out and encompassed the swimming pool, Lido.
So, could you mention about the Neptune?
Oh, yes. If you are crossing the line, crossing the equator, and a lot of you people will be aware of this, there was always the ceremony of the crossing the line when King Neptune came on board, and all the polywoggles who hadn't crossed the line before were ducked in the swimming pool, and they were given certificates later in the day to say that they crossed the line and been sanctioned. Yeah, shellbacks, they've become shellbacks. Exactly. So Canberra was a very progressively modern ship. This is a stairway in the interior of the ship that led down from those top decks down to another strata of public rooms. And the design work that was done by prominent British architects, Sir Hugh Casson led that team. He was the architect that had done the installations for the Festival of Britain in 1951. A very famous, very well known. He did a lot of work in London and at the Cambridge University.
This would be a very dangerous thing.
Well, yes, this is a circular stairway, but in a rough sea on the Bay of Biscay, you had to be careful going up and down these stairs. And also something that I was told about, that the actual level of these stairs follows the camber of the deck leading down sideways. And these ones are 4.5. There's the shear of the hull, where the hull is, so that the geometry of that, I am told, I do not know this from personal experience, but I am told that to really appreciate the geometry, that you have to go up or down those stairways wearing high-heeled shoes. I never tried. This is, again, the very, very crisp modern architecture of the ship's interior. This is the Meridian Lounge, which was the former first-class main lounge, and you can see that stairway at the front there. So she was very much a ship of the 1960s, because 1960s was 20th century modern movement architecture. We had things like the Toronto Dominion Centre being built here in Toronto. So it was very progressive, it was modern, and it was luxurious. The dining room, first class dining room, the Pacific dining room, where we saw a picture of Lawrence a few moments ago. Again, this very, very modern architectural design. And I think it really set a standard. It set a very high standard for cruise ships, because a lot of them were like, that were in service still, were like the old Cunard Queensland, rather old world, 1930s Art Deco sort of thing. And she was a two-class ship when she was in liner service. So here, the Cricketer's Tavern, very, very popular spot on the ship, and very popular, especially among the younger people who you tended to find in tourist class. And when the ship changed to cruising in the 1970s, people found their own, I mean, those older people staying in the more expensive accommodations, they went to the Meridian room up forward. The younger people who were there on holiday came to this room, the Cricketer's Tavern, or to the Alice Springs Lounge, which were more livelier. And I mean, you had around the world cruises. Yeah, I think they only cost about £5,000 to go all the way around the world. And you had ordinary British people would book the emigrant accommodation, the friendly fours, these 4-berth cabins with toilets and washing facilities in the center of the ship. So the ship really served everybody, and everybody had their place. But you also had the freedom of movement throughout the entire ship once you went to cruising in the 1970s. And here again, we see her, I think this is in the Gaylord Cut in the Panama Canal. What have we got next? Oh, well, yes, this joker was allowed on board the ship. That's yours truly shaking hands with Captain Mike Bradford when I cruised on the ship. I did part of the world voyage in 1981. I was before my hair went, well, I would not thought about that one. Next.
That's a hostess.
One of the hostesses on the ship, yes, the hostesses were wonderful on Canberra. The whole ship had a very, very friendly, it was a happy ship, it was a friendly ship. And I remember Captain Bradford welcoming us on board in Fort Lauderdale and saying, we hope you find that our hospitality is as big as our ship. And in those days, Canberra was the third largest ship in the world, following the QE2. We're running
No, second. Technical difficulty.
technical glitch.
Keep chatting about it.
Yeah, picture.
Oh, okay, so,
I want to mention something about.
okay. What?
One thing.
We've gone back several generations here.
When I was on your sofa, we left Sydney, we come up to Hawaii and Vancouver. And that's when I met my wife Louise on your sofa. Now she'd gone out to Australia on the Canberra, and they found out that she was a physiotherapist. So
Here we are.
she got a free trip out if she wanted as a children's hostess. So she wanted as a children's hostess, and she got a free trip out. 3 years later, she comes back on my ship. Rest is history, right?
Actually, when this photograph was taken, it was on a different voyage. I actually got a freebie for that one because I was doing some lectures on I was a cruise lecturer on this, so it does happen if you're lucky.
Mentioned, I think after this, I went to shore to get my chief engineer's certificate.
Okay, I've forgotten what's next.
You've got to make,
No, but I mean, what's the next?
yeah, I went ashore.
Okay. Did you want to take that?
No, I'll just. That's when I went.
Oh, yes. Congratulations, first
Chief engineer's.
chief engineer certificate after you've done a show for Canberra. Now, this was something that I don't think anybody had planned on when the ship was designed and built, and that was her tremendous role in the Falklands conflict, 1982. And the ship was requisitioned by Her Majesty's government toward the end of that voyage that I'd been on to go through the Panama Canal. She took, I think, 3,000 troops down to the Falkland Islands. She was very, very hastily refitted so that the swimming pool up here, this was all closed in, and there was a helicopter pad there, and there was another helicopter pad set up here forward of the navigating bridge. And I don't know whether that had actually been planned as part of it, but these open decks were absolutely amazing because they could do, and they also had the military equivalent of cargo containers up on these top decks, and they had all kinds of things in there. Now, during Falklands, she served as a troop ship. She was also a hospital ship, and toward the end of the conflict, she was also a prison ship because she was used to repatriate a contingent of Argentinian prisoners to the mainland in Argentina. So here she is, and this would have been mid-July 1982, approaching her home pier at Southampton Docks. This is the western, I think this is the western dock up here. I think Pier 109 was her home pier, and it was an absolutely amazing day. The Prince of Wales, who is now our king, was flown out on the ship, to the ship on a helicopter, and he came on board and met some of the troops and some of the personnel on board the ship who were returning home from the Falklands conflict. And here we have Falkland, yes, the engineers who served during the Falklands. P&O has always had a mixed crew, the British officers, and we had Goanese, cabin stewards and service staff. In this, as it was a military engagement, government service, all of those non-British people returned to their homes in Goa and in India. And they also had naval personnel because there were two captains. There was a naval and a P&O captain who jointly commanded the ship. So these are the engineers who were
I go that guy.
Bear Club.
We need to, so.
Hmm?
Otherwise, we can't.
No. Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Chief engineer,
chief engineer, on Canberra.
and I knew that.
I mean, the kudos that that ship got from the Falklands voyage was very, very well publicized. She was refitted again and reintroduced into cruise service. That was in 1982, and she continued to serve until 1996, when she was withdrawn from service and sailed out to India, where she was the breakers. So,
Okay, I'm just gonna talk about this picture, after the refit of the Canberra. I think this is her again. She's up in Glacier Bay in Alaska. This is what you really want to see in Alaska, Glacier Bay. But I did 6 of these cruises up here, and only 2 of them you could see the Glacier Bay like this. The rest of it was like the fog out here. So it's a hit or miss. If you do Alaskan cruise, you can get it like this, or you can get it like. And I'm just showing a picture here of what the new ships of Princess are. This is the Star Princess coming into Glacier Bay again. And the whole design is totally different. They're water ships now. All the controls are done from the bridge. They carry only about maybe 8 engineers on board max. And they're much smaller ships, but they have all different facilities, maybe even 2 or 3 swimming pools.
can I add one thing to that? Just that, we can go back to that picture. Oh, I've got the.
Well, but.
You got the one? You got the one? Okay. Because Canberra had her lifeboats nested lower down. Can we go forward again? Right. There is, although the ship is radically different in the way she works and everything else, there's still the sort of vestigial representation of Canberra with the boats lower down, the expansive open deck, the midships and everything else. So she really was a ship that did shape, and I think to a great extent helped to create the future that she lived and served in. She's gone now. She's been gone 28 years. I still miss her. Thank you.
Okay, this is Sydney Circular Quay in Sydney as of today. And this is the Star Princess, one of their bigger ships. As we were saying, the total design concept is different. But when I first went to Sydney, there was very few skyscrapers then. And all of this has been renovated. So it's unrecognizable, Sydney Harbour now. But this is the new Princess line of vessels.
And they're much larger ships too, because Canberra was about 45,000 tons. These newer ships, these are 70,000 and up. So more, well, at least about double the size of Canberra.
So basically, that's our end of our truck. But this vessel has 3 swimming pools, as far as I can see, 1, 2, 3. Whereas the Canberra only had 1.
Well, she did have a little one all the way down up, but again, funnel all the way out, all this deck space in the middle. It's, yeah.
So hope this goes back to the very beginning of it.
Yeah, you're getting that.
So there's a picture that started it all.
For both of us.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, bunker seat, which was terrible oil for the boilers. And depending where you got it, if you got it in Colombo or Eden, whether in Colombo or Aden, it's an awful job keeping those boilers clean. Of course, we had Indian crew on the P&O ships, and on the Orient line, it was all European, white crew, Europeans and people from Liverpool, which was another issue.
Are there any other comments or questions? Mr. McNaughton?
What was your normal sort of rota? How long would you be on the ship? How long would you be off?
Yeah.
Was there a regular pattern or was it irregular?
I didn't mention that before. When I first, sorry, when I first went there, we were on the freighter, and then in Acadia, it was 4 hour watches and 8 hours off, round the clock. So if I was on the 8 to 12, I'd be 8 o'clock at night to midnight, and then I'd be back on 8 AM to 12 noon. And that was all the, and we switched when we got to Sydney, the different watches. But as I got up in rank, I didn't have to do watches. Same, you know, different duties to perform, and I didn't do any watches.
So we have, Patrick,
Okay, Seamus.
no, Patrick first,
Pardon?
Patrick's first.
Oh, sorry, Patrick. Go for it.
Unmute yourself.
Patrick, unmute yourself.
Yeah, that was very, very interesting. Where was the Canberra built?
Northern Belfast, Northern Ireland.
It was built out of the roof, Belfast.
Okay, and going on from that, I used to sail in the Solent in the 60s. Used to race in the Solent on 12 meters and different things.
Yeah.
They used to see the Canberra a lot coming up and down, and also the Andes. Was the Andes one of the P&O fleet? Or?
Yeah, no, that was a,
Royal Mail
Andes
Lines.
was a Royal Mail or Shore Salvo vessel.
Yeah, Royal Mail, South America.
Yeah, was she not bigger than the Canberra, the Andes? No, no.
I think she was about, I think Andes was about 25,000, perhaps 29,000 gross registered tons.
The Canberra was 42,000 tons, and the Andes was about 28.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we always try to have to get out of the way of all these ships coming
Of
along.
course. We were not going to stop there.
Yeah, the lovely one was the France. Do you remember the France?
Oh, yes.
Mm.
Splendid ship.
And I think the Normandy. Normandy?
Thank you.
No, Seamus.
Okay, we'll take one from the floor now.
Okay.
Sally.
When did they change the ship design to remove first and second class?
70s, we got into cruising, and then it all became one class. Oh, sorry. Class barriers disappeared in the 70s when ships were converted for cruising and new cruise ships were built as single class ships. 69, the QE2, it had a nominal class division, but it was really just, there was some more luxurious accommodation on the upper two decks that could be isolated in the North Atlantic service, but otherwise in cruise service, it was all amalgamated and all passengers pretty much had the run of the ship.
Okay, Seamus, you're on. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Speak
Hello?
loudly, please.
Can you hear me?
Good, now we can.
Okay, sorry about that. It's very unusual that I cannot be heard. What I will always remember about this presentation was the beginning and the conclusion. The photograph of the young man, I don't know whether he was with a relative in naval uniform or one of the crew, but he said that's where it started at all. And what was so interesting about all this started when he was a very young boy. And may the good Lord give him a long life, because it's going to continue on. And I look forward to hearing more from these gentlemen. And I was absolutely fascinated with the changes, particularly in engineering, how things have changed over the years. And I think it was remarked that some of the cruise liners now only have 8 engineers. And also, I did not know that the first class and second class had been abolished. But I do know that on other forms of transport, we have sort of economy or tourist class and luxury class. Well, it's not called class anymore, but anyways, it was very, very interesting. And I would, this is not a criticism, but I would have liked to heard more about the Falklands. It's amazing that with everything that went on, that the ship survived. And I was just curious, were the Argentinian prisoners of war, did they go back to the UK, or were they released and brought back to Argentina from the sea?
They were,
When the Falklands were over, Canberra went into San Pedro, Argentina, and took them
Oh.
all back.
Okay. Yeah, it was that was a very interesting time. I remember I traveled from the north of England to the south of England on a train with young squaddies. And it was a most interesting trip all the way. I was going down to the south of England, and they were actually looking forward to the Falkland mission, you know. And
Talking about class, last time I went on the Acadia, my last ship basically, and we did Alaskan cruising on her, and there was no class system whatsoever.
Right, yes,
What happens to the crew when you are in dry dock? You get to stay on the boat or you get kicked off?
repeat the question.
This was what happens when we are in dry dock, we were changing props or something, or the crew could all go home. And the engineering staff, half went on leave, and half stayed on the vessel. So the next time back in Southampton, ones that had stayed on the vessel, they went on leave. That's stayed. But there was no crew except for the stewards and for galley staff, basically, because we were living on the boat, we had to stay.
Okay, Sherry.
Stories for a moment. How many?
Decks?
Decks.
what,
8 to 5.
12, Canberra, I think, had 12 decks,
12.
about 12. There's 15 or
Yeah,
15 or more on the newer cruise ships because they're that much higher up, and that's another whole story, but how they do that.
the Acadia and the Sova had about AB, ABC, ABF. So 6, 7.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
Because as an aside, I mean, the newer cruise ships are built much taller, a couple more decks. Because they used aluminium in the Canberra superstructure, they could add an extra deck. They're now several decks taller, and the reason that they can do this now is thanks to the invention of the vacuum toilet, which uses a lot less water than conventional water closet toilets. You could not have so many toilet facilities high up in a ship's superstructure. So the vacuum toilet is the toilet that launched 1,000 cruise ships.
well, that's a nice little bit of trivia. Yeah.
I never knew that.
the middle pictures from the talk of the Canberra after it came out of the Panama Canal, and it would show the two masts on each side looking forward with the cables crossing. I don't know what that was for. And I have to follow.
Well, on the Orient ships, they had a totally different design for the masts. They had no masts on the Orient. They had derrick masts. So those two little masts stick up were derricks, and the cables are for going over the holes to open the holes.
For the arm.
So different type of design.
How many
Jim, can we go to the others and come back to you? Thanks.
the larger cruise ship, is there a cost incentive? Is it cheaper per capita, per passenger mile when you make the ship bigger?
Well,
Up to a point, yeah.
nowadays, when you're looking at some of the larger ships, the 6,000 people. So, and then compare 1,500, 6,000. And one of the problems with the newer ships are that so many people are aboard. Venice has no planned cruise ships going into the Laguna. We went into Venice on Acadia. Maybe 700 people were sure it's not a problem. And passengers who did not go on tours, we were given the tickets. That are sure and stuff is free. But now Venice, when 3 cruise ships come in, that's almost 10,000 people. So they're planned cruise ships. I'm not sure.
Up to a point, it's more cost effective if you're serving more up to a point that it's what they call economy of scale. I mean, you can feed and look after 3,000 passengers more cheaply on a per capita basis than 2,000. But there comes a point where the ship then has to be that much larger, and then you need more staff, more crew in other departments and that sort of thing. They tried this with super tankers back in the 60s, and they built them so big that it got to the point where nobody could afford to insure the cargoes. So, I mean, there is a point beyond which it's no longer economical. I don't know what that point is, though.
Okay, and I think Philip, you had a question.
So talking about these larger ships, things tend to grow with time, but the ships certainly look very ungainly and look very top heavy. Is there any difference in the sailability of these new ships compared to our traditional ships?
You want to take that one?
I was a naval architect, not done naval architecture. My opinion now of the new ships, I don't want to go near them. Because look at the size of those decks. You're in the South Atlantic or Atlantic coming over. And I told you before, we don't put stabilizers on until it's rough seas. And if you can look in the YouTube, you've seen some incidents of the ships. And they lose their power, and what did they do? You know, in the old days, we could compare it. That's only about 8 engineers now. So I am not a fan of the new cruise ships at all.
And there comes a point when you just, you know, the prospect of getting 6,000 people out of one of those huge ships, should something go wrong, it's unthinkable. I mean, Costa Concordia, which keeled over on her side in shallow waters, thank God there was a shelf below and she didn't actually sink. If she hadn't been in deep waters, there would have been a horrific loss of life, because you cannot, just getting that many bodies off a ship or out of a building or whatever in a timely fashion is an issue.
Yes. And that cost it, so Cordia was the one that went over in Italy, right?
That's right. She's real.
Mhm. And I think, and you'll be last.
There's one more question.
Yes, did the electric engine carry on into the vessels that we have today?
Yes and no.
Yeah. I'm thinking of potted propulsion. Yeah. You want to take it? You're the engineer.
Yeah. Yes, up to a point. The ones on the Canberra, it's large electric motors, no. So when P&O started having the love boats, they bought quite a few love boats. All those vessels were diesel electric. They got rid of the steam. It was all diesel engines driving electric motors. But nowadays, they've even progressed further that cruise ships have what's called pod propulsion. So there's 4 It's like having your, like on your sail drive, it's much bigger scale, and you actually turn as well from the bridge. So it's all pod ocean now, if one of those things fails, you've still got three other slides.
And Queen Mary too uses pod propulsion, so, and she's a very high performance ship.
I think we have a question online there, George, you.
Yes, Seamus has provoked me to ask the question that I put in the chat. And that is, does that mean when you have the vacuum toilets that all the product ends up as ballast? And I subsequently thought, no, they probably reprocess the water, pulverize what's left and stream it astern.
You're dead right. All the sewage goes into sewage tanks, which we have quite a few in each ship, and they're all treated before they go and go.
Yeah.
Now, that's P&O places. I'm not sure if it's some of the other shipping lines.
Who knows what the Greeks do?
The Greeks and the, let's see, the Armenians, I'm not sure what they do. We always treated them.
It's good to hear. And Jim, last question to you.
Thank you. Very interesting talk. I think you said that the total number of people in Canberra was 6,000.
2,000.
Pardon?
2,000 passengers maximum in line service. And 1,700, I think, in cruise service.
So that's about 4,000.
No, one or the other. In line service, you had 2,000, with all those emigrants going out to Australia. When they cruised, they reduced because wanted a little more space for cruising.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any comments about the new ship Icon of the Seas, which holds 10,000, which is a $2 billion bill, which I was a little grossed out about.
I don't want to go anywhere near it.
10,000 on one boat.
I don't want to go anywhere near it.
Unfortunately, cruisers all become money.
Yeah.
Right. So you just tell as many people as they can on so cabins of their stories say that their services like food. So I have not really, I've got no interest in the issue. That's why.
Is there a choice? I mean, could you choose a ship that's smaller utility?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's not that they're all that big, that's
No.
a lot of, most of them are, I guess.
I was going to mention if this talk is interesting, we could do another later on. There are so many pictures. So a survey.
I can always find a spot for you.
Well, we'd be glad. I think we'd be glad to do it.
Okay, well, you're on. They'll schedule you maybe this year, but maybe next year too. So let's just give these folks a nice round of applause. I think they've just done an amazing job.
Thank you.
I do have a little token of appreciation for you, but it's stuck right now, so I won't get it to you.
It's good to be done. People want to see your ships all up here.
Oh, yes, and they've got pictures up here if you want to take a look afterwards. And so with that, we're taking a look at what's coming next